Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Tyson Fury's very public jab at Deontay Wilder, saying that he has nothing more than a puncher's chance versus him, that he's going to school him even more than the first fight, hashtag Bum City, with lots of laughing crying emojis. It got me thinking about this rematch and that we can actually start turning our minds to it, that it's not just something that's on the far off distance, somewhere over the horizon, because we've lost effectively, the best part of a year before it is going to happen. It was going to happen earlier this year, but obviously Tyson Fury joining ESPN and Top Rank on a co-promotional deal scuppered that, and it knocked it back, and they started talking 2020. And from what they're talking now, February 22nd, 2020, that's not new, but now that Wilder's through his fight and seemingly healthy, and Tyson Fury healing a cut, but from what we're hearing, they believe that he could be good to go. It looks like this might happen. We can start looking to this, and it's really going to be something, a big fight for 2020. It's going to be early in the year, something to really kick the year off in style. Put away sort of, 2019, which in general for the heavyweight division, outside a sprinkling of top fights, has largely been a disappointment, not the same sort of competitive fights often enough as we saw in previous years, 2017, 2018 in particular. So kicking the year off with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury in February, and it looks like there'll be Joe Joyce, Marco Huck early in January. Oscar Rivas looks like he might be returning at the end of January. There's something to look forward to, but this rematch in particular, let's really focus on this here, because Fury, he was always going to come out and say something like this, regardless if Deontay Wilder looked $1 million, $100 million, or $120 million. So regardless of the performance, and it was a good knockout by Deontay Wilder, Fury was always going to trash him as the games begin for the rematch, the psychological warfare. Fury will want to really get it over on Wilder, and we saw the first time around in the press tour that Deontay Wilder has a lot of canned lines. He obviously rehearses them, well ahead of time. Fury, in the sort of, heat of the moment, really just rolling some sort of insult off the tongue, had the edge over Deontay Wilder. So he will want to really pepper Wilder with all manner of things in the build-up, and I think we all know it's coming. We're going to see it, and he'll probably do something to sort of shock and delight along the way. That's just what Tyson Fury does. In terms of the statement about he'll school him even more than the first fight, that he's only got a puncher's chance versus him. Well, I guess we saw in the first fight, he might only have a puncher's chance in terms of winning a decision against Tyson Fury, because it was a draw in the end, a controversial draw. But he, showed that he did have a puncher's chance, dropping Fury heavily in that fight, December 1st, 2018. A very good fight, controversial fight. And since then, you can make arguments about both guys that they've improved. Tyson Fury was only 6 months into a comeback at that point. And in his first fight of 2019, which was against Tom Schwartz, I think people have quickly forgotten, because of the Wallen performance, that Tyson Fury on that first fight, he looked very impressive. The reflexes looked good. He looked generally really, really good in that fight against, albeit limited opposition. But Otto Wallen, who was a step up from Tom Schwartz, and that was something I said ahead of that fight, that he probably would come better than advertised. Tyson Fury didn't look great. He got the job done. He was cut early in that fight, but even ahead of the cut, there were some signs that he was looking a little bit flat, and Otto Wallen was having some success. He was working Tyson Fury to the body and hitting the target, quite frequently. It wasn't like Tyson Fury was a guy that was just evading everything. Otto Wallen was having some success, but it's a different kettle of fish between Wallen and Wilder, different styles, and obviously Wallen not a big puncher. So at times I think Fury was content to take a couple of shots, knowing that he could actually probably take them and get away with it. But in terms, and obviously the cuts changed the fight as well. And I think a lot of people who saw that fight and what happened, and Fury maybe not fighting at his best, but grinding out what in the end to some extent was an impressive victory given the two nasty cuts over that eye. I think some people have just sort of soured on him and think that a Wilder rematch is going to be a cakewalk. And especially after the one punch that ended Luis Ortiz, I think some people are just saying that this is going to be easy work for Deontay Wilder. I've seen that in my comment section in the post-fight review. I've seen it elsewhere. But for me, it's still roughly the same equation. If Tyson Fury can box well, he could box to a decision. But can he go 12 without taking a big punch from Deontay Wilder? The first fight would indicate, well, maybe not. But if he's deeper into his comeback, maybe he'll be a bit slicker. Maybe he'll be able to do something a bit different to avoid some of what Deontay Wilder has. But as we keep seeing, Wilder only needs 1 or 2 seconds elapse and he can make you pay. And we saw in the 12th round of that first fight, he made Tyson Fury pay, and ultimately that knockdown helped influence the draw. But the other thing is to consider with it, we saw in the 12th round of the Otto Warren fight, Tyson Fury, a bit of a mental lapse. He was caught by a shot and stunned, and Otto Warren was really putting it on him, trying to get him out of there. But ultimately, Fury survived. So, yeah, I think people need to look at this and go, this isn't like some cakewalk for either guy. This is going to be a competitive fight, but for much of the same reasons as the first fight. But I think both have improved since that first fight. I think what we will see in terms of Deontay Wilder in a rematch is a more disciplined fighter, as he was against Luis Ortiz. Because remember, Ortiz was looking to time Deontay Wilder in the first fight. He was countering him when Wilder was punching, and it was a successful tactic. Wilder holstered the right hand for a lot of the fight and sort of took some of probably what was a big part of Ortiz's game plan away. He couldn't look to do what he was looking to do in the first fight nearly as much. And in the end, Deontay Wilder, when he found an opportunity in the 7th round, one of the few right hands he really threw in that fight, he hit the target. He showed, discipline and patience. He waited for the opening and he made Ortiz pay. And in that first fight with Fury, Deontay Wilder was pretty ragged at times, and he was just swinging for the fences and finding fresh air most of the night. Sure, he got the 2 knockdowns, but he looked pretty ragged and sloppy at times ahead of those knockdowns and in between. And I think we will see, as Wilder has sort of indicated that, he sort of said the occasion got the best of him and he was anxious to get Fury out of there. That's almost a direct quote. And he said that's why it led to his performance and not being able to execute his game plan. Go back to his Instagram from the time. He, tried to sort of, rationalize what happened. But some of it you could put down to, well, Tyson Fury didn't let him execute his game plan. But, I do agree with Wilder. He certainly didn't follow his game plan if that was, if it was in fact to jab and try to work the body and do a few more things to try help set up his work, because it didn't sort of pan out the way that he was hoping. And Fury, having been back only 6 months, I think we'll see a sharper version of him. As we saw in the Schwartz fight, I think we'll see a sharper version of him for the rematch. And I think, given it's a big fight, given there's something on the line, the WBC title, and then potentially, who knows what after that, probably a rematch if Fury won and a trilogy mid-year or something like that. I think that will be the sort of thing to motivate Tyson Fury, because you have to sort of ask yourself, how motivated has he been since signing the big deal, getting that first fight out of the way, but then knowing that he's got to fight a guy that not many people wanted to see him against. And sometimes, guys like Fury find it hard to stay motivated, find it hard to get up for a guy that he knows he should beat and beat well. And maybe, having this something to plan for, something to aim for February, which is only 3 months away, that will really sort of put a spark into Tyson Fury, as it did for the first fight. He said he was going to fight well, and he did, and I would expect it again. But for people just to write off Tyson Fury, or even Deontay Wilder, I think this is going to be a very competitive fight. I think Wilder will be more disciplined, and Fury, he will certainly be doing what he does, but probably just a little bit slicker than he did the first time. But ultimately it comes down to that equation again. Can Deontay Wilder land the right hand, or land a significant punch of note? Because we've seen him through that fight with Ortiz. Clearly, he's been trying to implement the left hook, use his left hand a bit more. And obviously, from that fight with Ortiz, I think one of the things he could certainly pick up is his jab, because it was very sort of pouring in that fight with Ortiz, whereas, in other fights, when he has used it and used it with authority, it's been a good punch for him. But yeah, the equation is the same. Can Fury avoid a big punch, and can Deontay Wilder land it? And I'm going to be really looking forward to this when it happens. I know some people aren't necessarily that high in the fight, but I think most fight fans do believe that this is going to be an event, one of the bigger fights in 2020, especially in the heavyweight division, and something that we could and should be looking forward to. Certainly, I was pretty bummed out that it didn't happen in May 2019, but, I guess good things come to those who wait, and often in boxing, especially the heavyweight division, we do a lot of waiting. But what do you make of, one, Tyson Fury's sort of trash talk, which I think was to be expected, but two, what do you see happening in a rematch? These are just some early thoughts of mine, but I think it is largely the same equation, but maybe it will play out slightly different in terms of Wilder's discipline, and Fury maybe doing a few different things different to try confuse and confound Wilder. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.